On a spring morning of 1997, a 6-year-old boy named Vana suddenly surprised his parents by declaring that he was not their son, but was the owner of a large store on Nehru Avenue in Delhi. What the boy said shocked his parents. He continued to talk further. From his words, it turned out that in addition to the store, he has a 2-story mansion, a wife and 3 children, also an estate and a 1989 Chrysler car. In the beginning, the parents perceived what the child said as children's fantasies, but little Vana continued to insist on his own. Moreover, his conviction that he was right was so categorical that at first the father and mother began to fear for the mental health of their child. The parents nevertheless decided to check the words of their son, and one day they got into the car and drove to the indicated address. One can only guess at the surprise of the child's parents and the unfamiliar woman, to whom he rushed with the words, "Gita Devi, beloved, can you at least recognize me?" And later it was found out that the boy not only perfectly navigates the 2-story mansion and the store, knows the names and birthdays of his children, but he also knew about the birthmark which was under Gita Devi's arm. There are dozens of such stories in the world in which people are able to recall the complex, terrible events of a life that they, at first glance, have never lived. Their stories are replete with details that seem too precise to be completed with the help of the imagination alone. What's this? Wild fantasy? Psychical deviations? Or just random coincidences? Such chronicles make even convinced skeptics think, maybe this is reincarnation. Let's try to figure it out together. Subscribe to the channel because there is still a lot of interesting things ahead. And also be sure to express your opinion in the comments.
Are you a believer?
See, I believe.
Then let us begin.
The belief that after death the soul of a living being moves to another body is as old as the world. Reincarnation is a sweet word for those who don't want to die forever. We really want to believe that after death there will be a new life. Let it be as an insect, a butterfly, a ladybug, a praying mantis, or a stick insect. The main thing is to be. The Christian religion rejects this, but some Eastern and Western beliefs say it is possible. So what is reincarnation? Literally, reincarnation means secondary entry into flesh and blood. In other words, it is the transmigration of the soul from one body to another. Now, it is already difficult to say who and when first began to use ideas about this phenomena in their beliefs. The term reincarnation is mainly associated with Hinduism and Buddhism, but according to some sources, the path of incarnations appeared even earlier in African tribes, among North American Indians, and among Eskimos. Those who professed totemism believed in transmigration of souls, that is, they worshipped the totem as a deity and a generic sign. The topic of reincarnation in their works was also touched upon by many scientists, writers and philosophers, including Socrates, Pythagoras, and Schopenhauer. From a religious point of view, everything is more or less clear, but what does science say about this? Finding proof of reincarnation is surprisingly easy. There are thousands of documented and well-researched cases around the world, collected by scientists over the past century, that prove the reality of past lives and reincarnation. A great contribution to the development of this theory was made by the Canadian-American psychiatrist Professor Ian Stevenson, who began to study this phenomena back in the 1960s. He described more than 2,000 unique cases of reincarnations that occurred in different parts of the globe. Moreover, he studied each case himself. He went to the place and carried out colossal research work. He collected photographic material, questioned eyewitnesses, and even did excavations, acting as a historian, ethnographer, and even a detective. Sometimes a child has birthmarks associated with the death of a person with whom he or she was identified. It could be some kind of marks or discoloration of the skin on the part of the body where the fatal bullet entered, or a malformation in an arm or foot that the deceased lost. For example, a boy with a powerful skin scar growth on the back of his head remembered that in the past life he was killed with an axe blow to the head. Stevenson found the family where the man who was killed with an axe once lived, and he found out the nature of the wound, which exactly repeated the skin defect on the boy's head. Another child born with fingers that looked like they were chopped off recalls being injured while working in the field. and Stevenson found people who confirmed that there really was such a person who died from blood loss when his fingers got into a thresher. And there are hundreds of such thoroughly verified cases confirmed by the protocols of forensic autopsy.
We obviously have mutual control over our body.
Our body! It's my body! I'm not sharing my body with anyone!
Everybody's gonna be real disappointed.
The follower of Ian Stevenson, the American Jim Tucker, found out some more patterns of transmigration of souls, including into the bodies of children born in former families or in the neighborhood. It turned out that 70% of their previous lives ended in a tragic death. Moreover, 2/3 of the twice-born are girls. Many hypnologists are convinced that the best way to explore reincarnation is through deep hypnosis. For example, scientists at the University of Munich interviewed several hundred people under hypnosis about the events that they remembered in the first 3 years of life and came up with an amazing result. Nearly 35% of those surveyed were able to remember events that were proven never to have happened to them. And people subjected to hypnosis often began to speak in languages they didn't know. For example, psychologist Jan Courier describes how an American doctor in Philadelphia hypnotized his wife, bringing her back to the past. And suddenly the woman spoke in a low male voice with a Scandinavian accent. The invited experts concluded that the woman who suddenly became a man speaks outdated Swedish. Can memories of a past life obtained in a state of hypnosis serve as proof that the transmigration of souls really exists? Opponents of the idea of reincarnation immediately criticized this possibility, arguing that the memories that a person tells about in a state of trance are instilled in him by the hypnotist himself. They refer to the fact that a specialist who knows the technique of hypnosis is able to get the people with whom he works to do whatever he orders them to do. So in a state of hypnosis, many people can depict literally anything, from animals and their behavior to objects. However, supporters of reincarnation drew the attention of their opponents to one interesting fact. People who were under strong hypnosis did not just remember a past life. At that moment, their facial expressions and appearance changed, as well as the tone of their voice. Those who observed such phenomena were simply shocked by what they saw. Thus, under the influence of hypnosis, some individuals who in the past life were older than their present age became suddenly haggard and tired, and this was evident from their movements. Others, on the contrary, became active and mobile, because in front of eyewitnesses they experienced a younger period of their past life. Moreover, witnesses say that wrinkles even smoothed out on the faces of such people. There have also been cases where people experienced even more serious changes. For example, they exhibited symptoms of an illness from which they had suffered in the past life. So one Englishman noticed a bruise on his body from a rope after a hypnosis session. This was explained by the fact that in a past life, as it turned out, he was hanged.
With y'all, I'm fine. I call this one fish out of water.
In the last decades of the outgoing 20th century, the public outlook in the West began to lean towards the recognition of reincarnation. Scientists working in various fields of knowledge, biologists and doctors, psychologists and psychiatrists, religious scholars and specialists in mythology began to pay close attention to this issue in their research. Observations and evidence of various kinds began to accumulate and systematize. The a priori denial of reincarnation as such was gradually replaced by an analytical approach with attempts to get closer to understanding the essence of this phenomena. Are reincarnation stories true? In his book The Power Within, British psychiatrist Alexander Cannon wrote that the evidence is too overwhelming to ignore. Here's what he said. For years, the theory of reincarnation was a nightmare for me. I did my best to refute it and even argued with my clients after the trance that they were talking nonsense. But as the years went by, client after client told me the same story despite their varying and shifting conscious beliefs. Over 1,000 cases have been investigated until I agreed to admit that reincarnation exists. You can believe or not believe in the transmigration of souls. This is everyone's business, but there are still many mysteries in this world that are beyond our understanding. What do you think? Do you believe in reincarnation? And who would you like to be in your next life?